What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Keegan and Company podcast. For those who are new to the show, my name is Keegan Hipgrave, and we are a resilience and high performance podcast that has conversations with some of the best athletes, not only in Australia, but all around the world, professionals, academics, to give you guys the very best tools, tips, strategies, these little golden nuggets that we can take away into our own life. We work really hard behind the scenes to give you guys the very best conversations, the very best guests, the very best little tools that we can take away. And there is only one favor that I will ask from you. If you could jump over and hit that little subscribe button on whatever platform you listen to this podcast on. YouTube is great, Apple, Spotify. It really does help us have the most amazing conversations and have the most amazing guests like we had today. In this episode, we are speaking to nutritionist Katy Bradley. She's actually my nutritionist and has helped me through a bunch of ultras, marathons, and now Ironman. She is only a couple weeks away from her first full-length Ironman. She dips a lot in the running space, but now she's trying her hand in the Ironman space. And it's really cool that she actually walks the walk. So in this episode today, expect to know the ins and outs of nutrition in the lead up to a race. We talked about under-fueling or fueling for aesthetics versus fueling for performance. Katy, we learned from Katy around her reasons why she got into nutrition and why she wanted to help people. And a lot of it does stem from the passing of her father. So this is sensitive conversation. So if this is triggering at all, please be mindful of that. And if you need to jump out, that's okay. And we'll see you next time. Anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoy the conversation. Katy Bradley, welcome to the podcast. How are you feeling?
So good. So good.
I'm so excited for today. Not only to have this conversation, but it's the first time we're in the studio.
I know.
And I'm very grateful that you're going to be the very first guest in this studio.
Thank you. It is my absolute pleasure.
Hey, Katy, I think in today's episode or in today's conversation, there's a few things that I'm really keen to discuss. I think you being a nutritionist, you being my nutritionist who has helped me through ultra marathons, half Ironmans. You've been so good for me. And I really want to get all of our conversations, our background conversations, almost bring them to light and get into. And I think by the end of today, I think I would love to sound that out and all the other little intricate things that we'll go throughout the day. But I think before we start, for not only professional athletes, but probably more so for the everyday athlete, the corporate athlete, why do you think it is important for someone to listen to this conversation today?
It'll be really entertaining. No, I think it'd be cool to sort of, I guess, bring a bit of light to obviously I'm a nutritionist. That's my passion and everything. And I'm very big on the reason I got into what I do and everything is that I feel like so many people have potential that they don't really tap into. And that's what I love seeing that in someone come out. And obviously I like being a part of that. It's a cool thing to do lifestyle wise. But I think, a lot of people will learn maybe some cool things that they can apply with their own nutrition, but just again, they might have a little bit of potential that we might be able to bring out. Because
forever I thought that nutritionists were only really used in the professional space.
Yeah.
That was for me, I thought, okay, if you want to be a nutritionist, that's only applies to professional athletes, which is so stupid. It's obviously, it's such a dumb thought because we are all operating day to day. A lot of us are dipping our toe into marathons, half marathons, even everyday life. How important is it to fuel properly? What would be the difference between fueling properly versus underfueling or not fueling well?
Well, to tap on that, I think one thing that I've noticed, I guess, with nutrition really evolving at the moment. Everyone's sort of, again, training really hard and nutrition has sort of come to light that it's really important for like you said, athletes and stuff. But I think people kind of lose the whole perspective of yes, nutrition's important. It helps us train hard, helps us recover. It's how we live. I was going to say again, if you look at someone who say eats well and fuels their body properly versus someone who doesn't, it's lifestyles, it's completely different. Again, nutrition affects your mental health, it affects your sleep, it affects your hormones. It's more than just training. And I feel a lot of people look at food as all right, my pre-training, post-training, fueling, fueling, but it's just it's fueling training, but also it's how you live. And again, it's about not just being able to train hard, it's being able to get through your work day, it's being able to spend time with your kids. Like people who say like, oh, I just want to like be able to like keep up with my little kids running around and stuff like that. It's like nutrition's part of that as well.
Because you work with a lot of people, like you coach people and you give them plans and you work with them quite intimately and closely. What is like, say if someone came to you super fresh, what is like the first thing you tell them? Like what are like a couple of the fundamentals when it comes to nutrition and fueling?
Yeah, I guess it's like really looking at, I guess like obviously like how you feel. Like are you finding that like throughout the day and stuff like that, like you feel energized, like you're ready to attack life sort of thing, and not just about training. Training's a very small part of like what nutrition's for, I think. It's just more about like, again, like how do you get through the day? Like are you having to rely so much on like stimulants and external things to sort of help when it's just like you're kind of missing the big thing of like, just eat healthy, eat food that nourishes you and everything like that. So I think it's a matter of just like being like, okay, like what does long-term health look like to you as well? Like you could be someone who is training for a sport or a race or something like that, and that's going to look different to the person who's like, yeah, I just like, you know, like I go to the gym a couple of times a week and I just want to feel healthy. I want to like go up the stairs and not get puffed. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Feels,
it's just like,
get that very closely.
Literally, But just like, when I first start working with someone, it's just like learning as well, like a little bit about, you know, like what's their relationship with food. Again, like when we're younger, a lot of like the behaviors and stuff that we see in like our parents and other people really shape how we view food and maybe like our actual like eating habits and stuff. And it's learning like, okay, like what does like health look like to them? What does like eating healthy, I guess, look like to everyone? Because everyone's different, and like that's the beauty of nutrition. It's so individualized as well. Like, and everyone's got like their beliefs and everything, which is fine and everything like that too. But I think it's just, again, like coming back to like looking at food as this thing that it's like, it's what helps you live. It's like what dictates like, I guess like as well, like the level of like quality of life you're actually going to have. And I think, again, it's like looking at the big picture of it's like, what does your health in the future look like? Because again, like it's all about the things that you do now. That's what contributes to your health later in life.
I think that was the biggest things why I wanted to come to you, was because like life is so busy.
Yeah.
You know, we've got partners and friends, but then we also have careers, but we also want to train at a really high level. You know what I mean? And
Literally.
so I'm like, I think I said to you, I was like, how do I sustain my energy throughout the whole day?
Yes, exactly.
I think that was one of the big questions. I was just like, I feel like I get to the stage, or I was getting to the stage where I'd hit like 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. and I'd just be crashing. I'd have no energy. Like I'd train in the morning and then we'd work all day, and then like I still need a backup for a session. Yeah. What do you think some of the big things are when it comes to consistency throughout the whole day? And I'm thinking of more like your everyday athlete, your corporate athlete, the people who might train in the morning, work consistently throughout the day, want to be around their family. Any tips, any ideas?
I think a lot of people underfuel by mistake. Like just naturally, like again, like a lot of people, like your everyday athletes are training like your elite athletes now, which is awesome. Like I love seeing that. Like people like going like, I'm doing doubles. I'm like, smacking out 20 Ks in the morning, going to the gym in the afternoon, which is great. But then if you're not like fueling for the work that you're asking of your body, that's why you do get to that 2 p.m. and your body's just like, no. Like you've got to fuel the work that you're asking it for. So I think like just making sure that like, anyone can look at like, okay, am I actually eating enough? Am I eating like carbs? Because obviously carbs are how we fuel our energy and stuff like that for training. Am I eating before training? What's my post-training look like? I'm actually refueling with like my protein and stuff as well. Like really like looking at the basics of like eating enough, eating the right types of foods, like your whole foods and everything too. And then I guess that's how you sort of mitigate getting to that afternoon period where it is super common that people just crash, or maybe we'll have a couple more coffees to try and combat that sort of thing. But I think, for like basics, it's just make sure you're eating enough, fuel the work that you're actually asking of your body too. Because one thing that someone said to me one day when I was first getting into training, they're like you can't train like an athlete and eat like a tradie. Like you need to eat properly and like, again, like eat quote unquote healthy, but just like fuel the work that you're asking your body to do. Yeah.
And I think the like the plan that you sent through, and it comes from a very like positive place. It's not like we're talking about extreme dieting here. Yeah. We're talking about how do we fuel for performance? Exactly. How do we fuel throughout the day? Yeah. And the plan that you sent through was obviously tailored after a few conversations, and it was cool because it was like, for me, I was just like, I'm trying to I'm trying to be in a deficit. I'm trying to lose a little bit weight so I don't have so much weight on my joints when I'm running. That was a big part for me.
Yeah.
And so, and for me, my initial thought was like, okay, well, I'll go into my runs fasted. Like I won't do, which was I think common mistake. And you're like, no, like it's okay.
Yeah.
For like your big sessions to have like a bit of yogurt or like have a piece of toast or, and I was just like, and the big thing that I got away from is just like, you want your sessions to still be really good. And so the plan that came through, I was still eating quite often.
Yeah.
You know, I would eat, but when I woke up, I would train, I would have my recovery, and then we'd get to the mid-morning, have a mid-morning snack. Yeah. Then I'd have my lunch and then have an afternoon snack. So it was kind of like broken up into like 3 big meals, but then a few different meals. And so I imagine that's going to be different for each type of person, right? It's super individualized,
100%. Like what you do in a day looks completely different to like, say, what our friends does, like when they're working on the tools and stuff like that. Yeah. Like their energy needs are different. The timings of when they eat are going to be completely different to, say, someone who is like working more like your corporate desk type style job. So it's just a matter of like, when I have someone coming on board and everything, really like diving into, okay, what does the day actually look like? And then we have to structure your meals around your actual like lifestyle and your schedule and everything. Because like I said, everyone is completely different. And then just to touch on like, the whole fasting and everything, I feel like that's that super old school mentality of like, all right, cool. Like you want to lose weight, don't eat. Yep. Or like just cut calories, like, and everything like that too. But then, like we said, you've got people who are wanting to train hard and everything, and you still need to fuel those sessions. And it's just a matter of us like going like, yep, okay, we can still prioritize training and make sure you're getting the best quality like session adaptations that you want from that. But then at the same time, behind the scenes, all right, we're trying to drop like a little bit of body fat. It's just all about like manipulating stuff behind the scenes with all these fancy equations and numbers and stuff. But that's why you get someone to do it for you, because it's really hard. I feel like at the moment, like I said, nutrition is really popular, which is awesome. But then with that comes a lot of people sort of like preaching their beliefs or like someone reads something and all of a sudden it's gospel and they start telling everyone, and then they're like, oh, well, my friend said to do this sort of thing. And it's like, again, what works for them, context might have just worked. Like they could be the outlier that this works for, but you've really got to look at like, again, like it is such an individualized thing, because what works for me might not work for you and vice versa.
Let's zoom in on that piece of cutting weight healthily in a really good way. What do you think if I was to come to you and I said, which I have, which I actually say I'm still here. So very topical for me. If I was to come to you and I was like, Katy, look, I'm sitting at around 98 kilos. I've got this big race coming up in about 12 to 16 weeks. I want to be able to drop a couple kilos in a really healthy way. I would love here to be able to debunk a couple myths like we talked about in the fasting, but also like what would be some key takeaways, like some golden nuggets that I could walk away with. I could be like, okay, I've listened to this conversation. I want to be able to have like 3 things that I could take away where I can cut weight in a really healthy way.
I think a big one would be like knowing your race schedule or your calendar and stuff like that. Because ideally you do want, like, if you're going to do a fat loss phase 2, drop body weight and stuff like that, you want it to be pretty far away from your race.
You don't want to do it too close.
No, not too close, because you need to be prioritizing fueling for performance. The closer you get to your race, obviously intensity goes up, like training volume itself increases too. And you do need to be like fueling the work you're asking of your body and everything like that. And obviously if you're trying to prioritize performance, you need to be in like either calorie maintenance or a slight surplus to, again, give your body the energy it needs to perform. Whereas when we're trying to lose body fat, naturally we're in a deficit, we're starving our body. That's not conducive with trying to perform, really. So it's just a matter of like, okay, look at your race schedule. And I would say like ideally like around that like 8-week mark, you don't want to be any like, I'm going to throw some numbers out there. Again, it's very just like basic, but like around that 8 weeks, I'd be like, no, you need to be focusing on just like either maintenance or a slight surplus to meet your training needs. And that's going to look different. It could be, it would vary day to day, depending again, if you're doing a double day or a single day. But I guess just to touch on it, would be a matter of just making sure that, again, the closer you get to your race, your energy needs and requirements do increase, and you need to be fueling that.
So if I do want to lose a little bit of weight before going into my race, do it a bit earlier.
The earlier you can do it, the better. You think about like how like fighters and stuff like that, like even though they are like dropping body fat and stuff in the lead up to their fight and stuff, like the closer it gets, you know, like they're doing their weight cuts and stuff, but they're not losing like 10 kilos or anything like that. They've usually already done a fair amount of like background work to like get their body fat down, and then it's just like a little bit of weight that they're trying to reduce. So I guess it's just a matter of making sure that you're not trying to drop 5 kilos like 4 weeks out from a race.
Sure.
Yeah.
What are some other things?
In terms of like
Cutting weight in a really positive way.
Yeah. Again, I think it's a matter of like looking at what your training schedule looks like, and again, fueling the sessions. Don't do fasted sessions. I think that that's one of the big mistakes that people make when they're trying to like lose weight and still perform, is that they're like going into a session straight after going to sleep, and then your body's already in an energy deficit because naturally you're burning energy when you're asleep.
Yeah.
So then going into a session fasted, then you're just like sort of like emptying a tank that's already empty sort of thing. And then obviously your energy needs just like going down, and then it just like, yeah, that's when you run into problems with, I guess, like getting injured and stuff like that too. Another one would be like making sure that you're eating enough protein if we're going to look at like the basic sort of things. So just to throw some numbers out, like around about like 2 grams per kilo of body weight is a pretty good like number to aim for if you're trying to like drop a bit of body fat but also perform. And obviously when we're losing weight, we want to lose body fat, not muscle. We want to try and preserve as much as we can because it takes so long to build. So it's just making sure that you're giving your body enough protein to prioritize like recovery, maintaining your muscle, and then the energy that it is pulling from is those fat stores. Yeah.
One of the ones that got me was peanut butter and olive oil.
Oh. Yes.
Forever, I thought olive oil was, olive oil is great.
It's amazing.
One of the beautiful fat. We love olive oil.
Yes.
Except for me, I'm a glugger.
You're a Jamie Oliver Paul.
I'm a Jamie Oliver Paul. I've got a big salad, and I use olive oil on everything, for my steak, for my salads, for like literally everything. Yeah. And then it was actually really great to bring the awareness to me. It was like, Keeks, like you're using so much, and there are so many calories in this thing. And I was like, okay, well, this is probably one of the things that I can. So I got one of the spray ones.
Yeah, they're great.
Great.
Yeah.
Really great substitute. Even my partner, she's like, you use more olive oil than anyone. I think because I heard about it when I was younger. And I was like,
because it's so good for you. Like I was going to say, that's another thing that I've noticed a lot with the, like, I guess, increase in people's training and stuff like that, but then wanting to lose fats. A lot of people do like drop fats or like cut fats completely because they're higher in calories. Like there's 9 calories per gram of fat versus 4 calories per gram of like carbohydrates and protein. So people just automatically think, oh, okay, cool, I'm just going to cut all my fats. Don't do that. Please don't do that, because like your fats are so important for like your hormones and everything too. And that again, that affects like your mental health, that affects your sleep and everything. And also like your fatty acids are really important for like helping reduce inflammation, which obviously we train a lot. Our body's naturally inflamed a lot of the time from our sessions. So you don't want to be like cutting fats completely, but you do need to be mindful. It's like the first time you learn how many calories are in like 20 grams of peanut butter, it ruins your day.
It was the worst thing I ever saw. You showed me how much of the teaspoon. I was just like, oh, I use so much more than that.
Literally. But it's just a matter of like still keeping them in there because they're so important again for like our hormones and everything like that. But it's just like being mindful, and again, getting someone who like myself is a bit more qualified who can look at your diet to be like, all right, cool, we still want to include them. We're just going to use this amount to support your training as well and make sure that you are fueling the work that you're asking of.
Let's talk about your upcoming event and how you're fueling for your very first full Ironman. Tell me about that. How did this whole thing come about? Because I'll let you start because we were talking this morning. You're like, so funny. Like I went from not being a confident swimmer at all to now going into a very full Ironman. Tell me about the journey to getting to this.
If you had said to me a year ago, like I was going to do an Ironman, I would have been like, okay, like
a full Ironman.
I used to look at them and I used to think that's so cool. I would never. I was like the swim alone. I was just like 3.8 Ks.
3.8K, 180 ride into a full 42 kilometer marathon.
Literally, like I thought, like I'm like, there is no way I would ever do any swimming event. Like, because again, like I've always like been able to swim and everything like that. Like I'm from Australia, we're like get taught to like swim as soon as we're sort of born, and everything like that. But it was never something that I really excelled at. Like I never did squat or anything like that. The only time I sort of had to do it was in the Navy, where it was just like make sure that you can make yourself float if anything goes wrong. So then I did swim a little bit then, but then since the Navy, I hadn't swum until we jumped in and did that little sprint try that you organised.
just for background, maybe it was probably like this time last year. Probably like a year ago.
Yeah.
Was it February last year?
Yeah, it would have been.
About a year ago, I was flirting with the idea of like doing a try.
Yeah.
And for those who are listening, and and we signed up for Kingy. Did you sign up? Oh, there's
No.
there's a group of us that signed up for Kingscliff,
Yeah.
which is a local triathlon, and just got cancelled for the
Yeah.
swim. I think it was like water pollution.
Yeah.
And I was like, stuff it. We've all trained so hard. Like, why don't we? And it was an Olympic distance. So it was
Yeah.
a very short, it was a shorter course. And so we just did it in our local creek.
Yeah.
Ran, like, rode out into Grumman Valley, which was beautiful, and ran the
Yeah.
beachfront. And we just invited a few mates.
Yeah.
And you jumped in off the back of never doing anything.
Literally, because you were at Run Club and you're just like, I think we're going to do like a little triathlon. And he's like, do you want to do it? And I was like, well, I'm easily baited to any fitness sort of thing. I was just like, yeah, all right, I'll give it a crack sort of thing. Like never having rode on the road on a bike. I hadn't rode a bike in years.
Yeah.
And then got a bike and I was like, I don't even know how, like, what are these gear things? Like, what does that mean? Like,
Yeah.
And then, yeah, you guys were like doing it. So naturally I was like, yeah, okay, I'll give it a go. And then, yeah, we set off that day and I borrowed someone's tri-suit and then again got in pretty naive to the water thinking, I'll be fine. Like I know how to swim. And then when we started, which I don't think you realised because you respectfully were so far ahead of me in the swim, I got about 200 metres up like Crumban Creek and I had to wave to get pulled out.
Lucky we had the jet
Lucky
ski
I had
there.
a jet ski guy there, literally shout out. And I was just like, I just couldn't figure out how to like get in rhythm or anything and just panicked. And then it was honestly like one of the worst feelings I think I've ever had because normally when I jump into a fitness like feat or something like that, like I'm pretty confident in like my capabilities and stuff like that. Normally I can, for lack of a better word, like dog it out. Whereas this time I had to get pulled out and I felt awful. I hated that.
What was the thoughts?
Because I was like, oh, you like little pussy. Like how are you not like getting this done right now? And I just was just like, that's so embarrassing. Like I was just like, oh, you've just jumped into this thing and now you haven't even been able to finish it. And then upon reflection, I was just like, well, of course not. You haven't been training for a try. You haven't swum in years. Like you shouldn't have had that level of expectation upon yourself. So after some reflecting, I was just like, it's not that bad. But then that feeling, I was like, I never want to feel that feeling again. I've had it come up a couple of times and in training and stuff, if I'm ever like kind of wanting to like say not go do my swim, I think back to that time in the creek and I'm like, I never want to feel like that ever again.
It's kind of like these really hard spots that we put ourselves in, the learnings that come from it.
Exactly.
And so good that you did the reflection because if we don't learn from them, then it's like, what's the point of even being in that position?
Literally. Because at the time I was just, again, like so embarrassed. I was just like, wow, I didn't even finish the swim. Like went on and did the rest of like the bike and the run, which was great and everything. But
also PB'd your 10K that
yeah,
day
I know.
as well, which was
my
wild.
bloody dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it ended up being like an awesome thing. But again, like after we finished, I was like, I would never do an actual triathlon because I was just like, that swim like would kill me. And then to look now, I'm like, okay, on the weekend I just did a 3K open water swim getting ready for my Ironman.
Also after a 26 kilometre run in the morning as well, I just might add as well.
Yeah, the training volume it's large at the moment, but.
Well, tell me more about that because you've gone from not being able to swim 200 metres in the creek to now doing 3 kilometres like straight.
Yeah.
Going into a 3.8 kilometre swim for the Ironman. Tell me about the, I guess, transition. How have you navigated that process from a mental point of view?
Yeah. So, well, the best thing is I got a coach. Shout out Jack Sauce.
Great man.
Yeah, literally. And I came to him with the tall order of like, I kind of want to do an Ironman. I can't really swim that well. I was like, again, like 200 meters was like pushing it. And he was just like, no, that's all right. We've got a few months to work with and stuff like that. And I was just like, okay, cool. It was like reassuring to have someone sort of, again, have that faith. Because I know that swimming is one of those sports that if you haven't done it from a young age, it's very hard to pick up when you're an adult.
Yeah.
So I kind of thought like, again, like I was like, I think like only until the weekend I've still had that mentality of just like, am I going to be able to do this? Like, and every swim session I go to, I respectfully never want to go. I hate swimming. I still haven't found that enjoyment for it. But like every time I go to the pool and finish it, it's that like, okay, cool, you did the hard thing. Like it's like, again, like we always talk about with training, like do the reps. If you want to get better at something, there's no point avoiding it. You're never going to get better there. But I think it's just like, I always think back to that feeling of being in the creek, having to get pulled out. And I think about that every single time I'm about to go to the pool when I'm like sitting there going like, oh, I could go do anything else right now. Like, do I have to? And then I just say to myself, I'm like, how are you going to feel when you get to Ironman New Zealand and you're about to jump in the water, and if you look back and think, hey, remember that time didn't want to swim, but I did it anyway, and all the reps I've stacked since then, like swimming 3 to 4 times every single week since then to make sure that when I do get to the race, like, no, I am confident in my ability. Because again, I just never want to get back to that place of like having to get pulled out, because like it's the worst feeling.
It's the worst
feeling.
Like we did a podcast with Andy Buchanan on the weekend after that run with AG1, and that was a big topic. He's like getting to the start line, knowing that you've done the work. Because he was saying on the episode that he's been doing like 2.5 hour long runs like every weekend for the last 10 years, and so. And he's obviously had a switch, but he's just like, I get to the start line thinking like, I am so capable. He went from, can I keep up, to no, like I'm actually going to win this thing. And so like knowing that you've done the work, so huge. Because imagine if you get to the start line and you start thinking, oh, I've actually taken all of these little shortcuts. And also the other thing that he mentioned, which I'll just touch on really quickly, was around like, he's like, your sleep, your recovery, your nutrition actually matters 2-3 months out. He's like, you're not just going to get to race day and then like have a good week of eating and then be on. It's like all this stuff matters from months out, which I was super fascinated with. Yeah. Tell me about your lead up, your nutrition. You're only a couple of weeks away. Your episode will probably go live probably the weekend you do the you do the Ironman. Yeah. So stay if you can. I imagine you'll probably put a fair bit up on socials as well. So probably really cool for crew to come and check it out as this episode goes live. Yeah. What's your nutrition been looking like in the lead up to this? And I'm really keen to break it down practically so people can be like, okay, I'm going into a block. Yeah. What do my phases look like from probably like 12 weeks out? Yeah. And then week of a couple of days out. Yeah. What does that look like?
So I've been in, how many months is it now? November, December, June. So I've been in like probably like I'm coming up to about 12 weeks deep into this training block. And since the start, it's just been it's been a big learning curve for me actually, because I've always fueled for training and everything and known kind of like, okay, based on the numbers, this is what you need to eat. This is how many calories I need to actually perform, basic amount of carbs and stuff like that too. But since getting into this space a little bit more, I think it's really fascinating the fact that people refer to nutrition as the fourth discipline for triathlon and Ironman and stuff like that, because it is such an important factor. Like if you don't have it dialed in, again, it's just like, it's kind of like skipping the reps of swimming. If you're skipping the reps with nutrition, it's gonna reduce like your chance of being able to finish and your actual ability. But in the lead up, it's just been a matter of like learning, okay, the amount of energy I thought I needed to eat in terms of calories and stuff is so much more than what I'm used to. So it's been interesting in the fact that like, again, like I've always known how to fuel for performance and stuff like that, but it's just like, it's a make or break. Like I will feel it instantly in a training session. If I've underfueled the day before, it affects the rest of the week and everything like that.
You can notice
straight away, literally. Yeah. Especially like after like say a long run, I think that's the thing that like we worked on a lot with you, is just like making sure that, okay, you're fueling the session before and your recovery and everything is dialed in as well. Because again, if it's not, that does impact the rest of your training for the rest of the week. Wow. Yeah. So for me, it's been a matter of just learning like, okay, this is like what I thought I used to need to eat is actually a lot more. And this is the thing I love about nutrition, is that the textbook will teach you numbers, it'll teach you the basics and stuff like that. But we're all so different and everything like that. And what I thought I needed is actually a lot more, just because naturally, again, we're always just training, the volume is so high and everything. So I've had to like increase my amount of food that I'm bringing in, which at first was uncomfortable because I was just like, whoa, I'm like, I can eat a lot, but like this is a lot. And also it's just a matter of like that old school mentality of like, because I did used to really have a bad relationship with food, and like I did find like calories and like eating too much food quite scary, because I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is going to impact how I look and everything. But during this training block, it's been a matter of like going like, well, if you're going to ask for this work of your body, you need to fuel it. So it's actually been a really cool like learning curve for me, learning that like, okay, like if you're going to try and do these amazing feats and stuff, you need to actually eat enough to support that. And it is scary at the start because you think like, oh my God, am I going to put on heaps of weight and all that sort of stuff too? And it's just like, no, like you'd be surprised like how good your body feels when you are giving it what it needs. But from a practicality point of view, like for this training block, it's just been a matter of like making sure I'm eating enough, making sure that like, again, like that 60, 90-minute period after I finish training, I'm really prioritizing like, all right, refueling with a decent amount of carbs, decent amount of protein. There's obviously like numbers around that, like aiming for at least like a gram of protein per kilo of body weight, a couple of grams of carbs per kilo of body weight, all that sort of nuanced stuff. And then obviously as well, making sure that, okay, like I'm fueling throughout the day as well, because a lot of our sessions are doubles. So it's making sure, all right, cool, I'm getting in another hit of energy like earlier in the afternoon so that I'm ready to go into my second session, making sure that, yeah, I'm still eating my fats and stuff, because that's so important for making sure that like, yeah, my hormones and stuff are really happy. Because again, like it is such a taxing thing for like your body, in the sense that a lot of the time, like I find with endurance people as well, and I had to be careful of this too, is that your iron can get quite low. So it's just a matter of, well, one thing I've been doing for this block is getting like regular blood tests and stuff like that, just to make sure like my levels and stuff are all happy and adequate, and I'm not slipping into any deficiencies like that too. Because again, like I said, like nutrition stuff, it impacts your sleep, it impacts your hormones, impacts your mental health, all those things. And then another one would just be like making sure that, yeah, you're hydrating enough too. Like anyone who knows me, I'm a big sweaty girl. Like,
it was very muggy this morning.
Yeah, it was a very muggy run this morning. But as well as being on top of like your hydration, like I noticed I went on a ride for a couple of hours, and then I weighed myself before and after, because I check my sweat rate quite frequently, again, just to make sure that I am bringing in adequate fluids. And I lost like, I think it was like 6 kilos over a ride.
That's so wild. And that's with you drink, like obviously you're hydrating.
And I was
really
still hydrating.
Wow.
And then, but then at the same time, like later in the afternoon, I was ruined. I was just bonked. And I was just like, wow, that's from being dehydrated. Like it's like, again, like, yeah, the textbook told me I only needed to bring in this amount of fluid, but I'm different. I sweat a lot versus the next person. So it's been just a matter of like being on top of, my calorie intake overall, my hydration levels, and then, all the little things like, again, recovery, sleep and everything, making that a priority, because sleep was something I definitely like didn't prioritize until now, which,
When you get over to Taupo, how far out will you do your carbo load? Because I know that was a big thing that we talked about before going to any big endurance race. The carbo load is so important. First of all, what does yours look like? And secondly, why is it important to do that?
So I'll probably start race days on Saturday. So I'll probably start carb loading properly on probably from like Wednesday afternoon, to be honest. So usually for a carb load, depending on obviously the like event like duration and stuff like that, that's going to impact like how much like you need to actually like carb load beforehand, in terms of like if you're doing like say a shorter race like a half marathon or even like a full marathon sort of thing, usually like that like 24 to 48 hours is sufficient, whereas for like your ultra events and stuff like that, it's more like 48 to 72 hours. So I'll start carb loading like probably from about like the Wednesday afternoon. Me personally, I prefer, and we did a similar thing with you too, where on the day before the actual race, still having high carbs, but it's not like a full-on carb load in the sense that like we're not aiming for the higher end of like say 12 grams of carbs per kilo of body weight. It's more like, all right, we'll taper back a little bit, maybe just like say 10 grams per kilo of body weight. Me personally, like when I've done marathons and like the ultra run-ins and stuff like that too, I usually aim for around about 10 grams of carbs per kilo of body weight. I've tried that. It works well for me. I have a couple of clients who actually, they prefer to aim for maybe around about 8 grams of carbs per kilo of body weight before a race, because they just feel sluggish and everything like that too. And again, it's just like what works for one person might not necessarily work for the other. And that's why you do need to sort of like practice this, get someone who can come in and actually help you do it too. Because like the first time you try and do a carb load, you think it's going to be really fun, because you think, oh my God, I can just eat all this food, but it's quite uncomfortable. And especially it's hard when you're trying to do like a carb load with all like whole foods and everything like that, because as much as they should be like the whole source of your diet, really like the main priority. But in terms of when you are trying to carb load with say potatoes, it gets really, really hard versus if you use some more of your like processed sort of foods that are maybe a little bit like, higher in like sugar and stuff like that maybe aren't quote unquote healthy, but they're going to help you reach your carb targets a lot easier. But I'll start carb loading, about 3 days out, and I'll utilize a lot of foods like your fruit juices, lollies, dried fruit, white grains and stuff like that too, just because they're a little bit less distress on my like stomach and GI. And then a matter of just making sure as well that I reduce my fat and protein intake, because even though, yes, very important during training and in the lead up, but when you're trying to carb load, you sort of want to reduce the amount of volume that's getting wasted on not carbs.
Sure.
Yeah.
Talk to me about race day. What's race day going to look like for you from the morning until your actual race? Because you've got some time on feet throughout the day.
Yeah, I know. And it's so funny you ask me that because I've actually got to have a meeting with Jack because I'm sort of a bit like, what do I do in the morning? Like the morning of the race and everything.
Like what does it look like logistically?
Well, yeah, because I'm like, I know what I need to do from a nutrition perspective in terms of like, I'll wake up a couple of hours beforehand and I'll have breakfast, which for me, it's going to look like probably eggs, rice, and then probably some more carbs in the sense of like liquids like fruit juice or some like Powerade, something like that too, just to top up my energy stores. So the morning of it'll be a matter of like, waking up a few hours before. I'm pretty sure my race starts at 8, I think. We'll double check, but then it's a matter of, I'll probably have to wake up, say at like 4, eat around 4:30, get a decent meal in, and then obviously go down to the actual race, get all my stuff sorted in terms of like, making sure I know where I need to be to like corral and everything like that. And then around about 30 minutes before I start, I'll probably have either like a gel or something small like some lollies or something like that. It's just like a bit of a primer just to get me started. And then it'll be jumping in for the swim.
Yeah. And then straight off the bike, will you have like another gel? Because I know you're very pro liquids on these long stuff. Yeah,
I find liquids work better just from like a practicality point of view. Like, you know, when you're like riding a bike and I was going to say, and your heart rate's quite high, especially when you are going like say between transitions, like naturally you're going to be like probably a little bit like stressed and moving around a little bit faster and everything. So your heart rate's naturally going to be a little bit higher. So I do find like liquid carbs from a practicality point of view, it's a lot easier to get a drink in than maybe trying to chew something. And again, it's a good thing with using like liquids and stuff like that is because you kind of kill a couple of birds with one stone. It's like, you're getting fuel from the carbs in the actual mix. You're getting hydrated because obviously there's water in there too. And then normally there's like electrolytes and stuff too. So you can kind of like stack all these little things in one source. So that's why I am quite a big fan of like liquid carbs as opposed to like maybe trying to get something solid like a banana or something in on race day.
I remember the half Ironman in Busselton. That was the first time that I used like almost like liquid only throughout the whole race. And to be honest, you know me, I'm a big racer. Like the 50K ultra marathon, I'm straight to the aid station and I'm grazing. I'm going to spend some time there. You know, don't know if obviously we weren't talking then. But that was early days. But I actually quite enjoyed the fact of having just a liquid. It was so easy. I had almost like 3 water bottle spots, or actually 4 on my bike, but I only used 3 for the half. So it was cool. I kind of knew at what times I was going to have these, and you were really great with that. So, okay, this is hour 1, bottle and a gel. Hour 2, bottle and gel. And so it was kind of really cool to break that down from that point of view. Rounding out the race, you mentioned that like the recovery, like after the race is so important. Again, why so important? And then also like, what does yours look like?
So obviously like, whenever you, same with like training and everything like that, like naturally when we're training or running and stuff like that, like we're burning energy, like we are naturally kind of damaging our body. I was going to say, which always sounds really twisted when you talk about training. But it's just a matter of like, cool, you need to be getting protein back in to replenish and like repair like these little like muscle tears and impacts that we've done to our body. We need to focus on obviously like refueling it and helping the recovery process. So from a practicality point of view, after the race, I know my appetite, it's going to be whatever I can kind of get in as well. But from like, I guess like the science side of it, it's like, all right, cool. I need to be making sure I'm getting at least like 30 grams of protein in, whether it's like a protein drink. I assume Ironman's going to have something like that available. And then also like getting some carbs back in, even though naturally we're going to be smashing carbs all day. You still need to replenish it because you're going to finish the race being in an energy deficit and everything like that. But again, like how you refuel after that is going to affect like how you feel for like the next week sort of thing. Because I know that like it's pretty common, like finish a race, go out for some beers and kind of skip the repair process. And you normally can feel the difference in the sense that like, all right, cool, your body's going to feel pretty beat up if you don't actually get in a decent amount of protein, or at least it's going to feel awful regardless. But really trying to focus on getting in some adequate fuel to again like repair the damage that you've just done. I'm
keen for us to sit down and talk that part of the marathon project. For those who know, we're running all the major marathons in the world this year, and there's one little spot where it's like Boston it's 6 days
Stacked.
after London. So it's
Yeah.
like 6 days post stacked.
Yeah.
So I'm keen to sit down and talk around like
Yes.
what that fuel is going to look like. Cause I imagine we probably will be eating quite a bit there.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because naturally, like these big events and stuff like that, you're just like burning so much energy and everything like that. And it's just a matter of like, again, fueling the work that you're asking of your body and making sure that you're putting fuel back into, the tank.
Yeah, 100%. I think
Yeah.
one of the most inspiring things since like doing a bit of work and training together is just like you walk the walk. Like you put yourselves in these positions.
Yeah.
Like, and I remember we've had conversations around you like, well, why? Like, how can I tell people what to do unless I'm like actually living it?
Literally.
And you're living it. And, you know, you've done really wild endurance races. You do your first Ironman.
Yeah.
And I think where I'm going with this, I've got a voice memo question that I would love to play on this one.
Hello, it's me. First of all, I just want to thank you for being you and always being in my corner no matter what stupid decision or stupid idea I have. Now, I know pretty much everything there is to know about you already. But you have one of the most incredible work ethics of anyone I've ever met or known. So my question to you is, where did that work ethic come from? And what is your driving force? Because when you have a goal, you literally run through a fucking brick wall to hit it. You make sacrifices that other people won't. And every single day, you get up and strive for that goal, no matter what. So where did that come from? And why is that there?
Ooh.
Thinking one of the great men, dear friend.
Good man.
Great question.
Great question. I'm surprised he's never brought that up on any of our long runs. There's been plenty of opportunities. I've actually thought about this a lot because quite a few people have said it to me when they just go like, geez, you just like are like a literal dog. Like you'll just work and everything. And I know that I do have like a good work ethic when it comes to training and everything like that. And I guess like I've always been into fitness and everything like that too, but I've never, it's going to get really deep.
It's okay.
But like I've never really kind of had much confidence in my actual ability to like, I guess like perform or like do well and everything like that. And I guess from like a young age, like I did struggle a lot with say like body image and everything like that. And that's what did lead me to get into like fitness and training and everything like that. That was a big driving factor, was a bit of, I guess, like an ego thing where I was like, oh, I want to look good, so I'm going to train heaps. And I did find that like training when I was going through like say those bad body image days or like struggling with my mental health and stuff, training was that thing that just always had my back. It would like, no matter what was going on, I would always get the training done because I knew it would make me feel a little bit better for like a minute, whether it was like momentary, like minutes, seconds, whatever. But it's just always been something that I've just always done because as well, like I have this like fear of never really finding what my potential might be. And because I have this like fixation, like I said, with like other people where like I see potential and I just want to draw it out of them. And like I see that in myself too, where I go like, oh, you just did this thing, like, all right, well, what if you try and do this thing? Like, what, like if you put in the work really, like how far can you go? Like what can you do sort of thing? But a lot of it does come from, I think, like a background of just like not being confident in myself, but then knowing that if you do the work, like you can do well and like you can achieve pretty great things. But then as well, I think as I've gotten a little bit older, like a big part of my work ethic and stuff does come from my dad, who passed away a couple of years ago to cancer. Sorry. And I remember just like, he always had like the greatest work ethic, like ran his own business, came to this country with like nothing but just like, again, for like a bit of term, worked like a dog, like every morning, got up early, thank you. Like was always up at 5 a.m, like working and like doing what needed to be done. And everything to provide for us. And I like watched that from a young age, and that kind of got ingrained in me that it's just like, okay, you get up early and you work hard, and like that's how you become successful and everything like that. And like obviously like over the time that he got sick, I like had to watch I guess him lose that ability to work really hard that he always had, which was really like hard to watch. But it kind of inspired me to be like, okay, like he can't really work that hard now. Like, I'm going to like do it. Like I'll step up and be the person who's getting up at 5. And like I worked with him for a while, which was really cool because again, I just got to watch him just work so hard. And it taught me that like, yeah, if you work hard, like you can do hard things and you'll achieve like great things as well. But I guess I kind of look back on that a lot where I go like, that was the hardest. Like I've done plenty of races and everything and like training and stuff like that. It's hard, but at the same time, training's not hard. Like it's like training is like you go to the gym, like you're doing burpees and stuff. It's not it's not that deep. And a lot of the time I'll think back to like, I've gone through like some of the hardest things that like everyone goes through hard stuff, and the hardest thing you've gone through is the hardest thing you've gone through. But I think about that a lot where I go like, if I could get through that and, you know, come out the other side of having to watch my dad literally like die in front of me, like I think about that a lot on the times where I go like, if he was here and it was 5 a.m. and my alarm's going off and I didn't want to get up, he would be like, get the fuck up. He'd be like trying to beat me to the door to be the first person up. So I do use a lot of that to, not as motivation, but it's a matter of just like it taught me that like you need to make the most of the time that you've got here. And again, if you do put in the work and you work hard, like you will like do great things sort of thing. So, and I do think about him a lot where I go like, if I can get through that and I can get through anything sort of thing. So I think that does turn into like being like a big driving factor for the days where maybe I don't want to. I go like, if he was here, he would tell me to get up and get out the door.
I think like getting to know you over these last couple of years, he would be like so incredibly proud.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think like it is so inspiring how many people like you've touched with your own journey and helping them like more intimately in the coaching space. So I honestly think that he would be like so incredibly proud, Katy.
Yeah, thank you.
Is that something that comes to mind when it does get really hard in races?
Always. I remember my first ultra in Perth last year, and it was like 30 Ks in, and it was like bucketing down rain. It was awful. It was such bad. And my legs were so sore and everything. And then I just remember just like thinking about him, and I like looked up. It was a very cliche moment, but like I looked up and it was like real stormy and stuff. And I just kind of thought of him like, he's watching me right now. And I know if I like channel him, like he's going to push me through this. Like I think about him all the time, and I think about how I watched him even when he was going through chemo and stuff. Like I said, he would still get up at 5 and go to work all the time, every day, like until he literally couldn't physically walk anymore. Like he just worked, and he worked so hard. And I was like, if he can do that, I can fucking run. Respectfully, like I'm like, my legs are a little bit sore, but if he could push through that, like I can get through this. And it does give me that perspective of like, it's just a little bit of pain. You can get through this and everything.
I couldn't imagine anything that's much more harder than like losing a parent
or
losing someone like so close. So like that, thanks for sharing.
I
know it's hard.
Okay.
I know it's hard, but I think it is really beautiful the way you articulate, and obviously means so much. Tell me about how you work through it, because I imagine losing a parent or losing a loved one is one of the hardest things, probably the hardest thing. What did you do throughout that time? How did you navigate through? Because I know you're very reflective. You look back on that stuff. What do you think, looking back, like what do you think helped?
I like training has always been that, like I said, that comfort for me, where it's just like even like going through that period, I still made sure I trained every day, just because like, again, physical, it makes you feel great and everything, but mentally it's like, I was like, I need to be mentally strong, and I need to know that like you can, again, like when you get through like a hard workout and stuff, you're like, oh, that was really cool. Like I'm like mentally, like you're stacking the reps and everything too. And I feel like that does like bleed into your everyday life, where I go like, okay, cool. Like that was like a nice little distraction. I got through the hard thing there. like it sets you, like I did need to use training as an outlet to, again, remind myself that it's like, you're going to be okay. Like, it's like you get through this hard stuff all the time. It was hard at the start in the sense that I like probably did try and keep myself too busy because I didn't want to think about it, because it was just like, even like now if I sit there and think about it too much, then I go like, whoa. It brings up too many strong emotions. And then so for a while I like probably did try and distract myself with keeping super busy. Like I studied uni and stuff too, where I was just like, oh, I need to just like think about that, because I'm like, oh, a little bit of ignorance is bliss. If I don't think about it, it hasn't happened. Like, and then when I would sort of like sit there and think about it, I would just like crumble, and it would just like tear me apart. And then eventually I like got comfortable with like trying to talk to people about it too, because like respectfully, everyone wants to be there for you, but you're kind of like, you don't know what I'm going through. Like, unless you've gone through it, like, I don't want to hear your opinion. Like, I get that you're trying to help me, but you don't actually know how I'm feeling. So then it made me actually reach out to someone who I knew had gone through the same thing, a girl that I went to school with, and I knew that she had lost her dad to cancer as well, a couple of years prior. And I remember messaging her because I was just like, man, like, I'm like, how do you deal with this? Because I was just like, I'm sick of people telling me how I should feel, that they want to care for me, because I appreciate it. But I'm just like, again, until you go through it, like, you don't know what this feels like. And she spoke to me for so long, and I like have so much time for her. Like, she took the time to just say like, all right, I like read these books. Like she's like, I did like look for like support groups and stuff like that too, because she's just like, it helps when you sort of lean on people who have gone through the same thing, because they do understand how you're feeling and everything. And it was just a matter of like getting comfortable, going outside my comfort zone, talking to strangers, even like who I didn't know, but I was like, I resonated with them because I'm like, oh, you do actually know how I'm feeling.
That's what I think these conversations are so great.
Yeah.
Because I imagine there's probably a lot of people who have lost someone pretty close to them and might be in it right now. Yeah. And are like, well, how do I navigate my way out of this? Yeah. Talking to people who have been in similar situations, listening to those stories, I think is really important. Yeah. You mentioned how you used like training as a coping mechanism. I think I very much subscribe to that. I think a lot of probably people subscribe to that as well. Yeah. Does it ever get to the point where it can be, it floats from being a positive outlet to a negative outlet?
I think so, yeah, because at the same time, like I said, like I was trying to sort of distract myself as well, where I would just be like, okay, cool, I'm going to just go to a really hard training session, because, you know, when you're in the thick of it, all you're thinking about is like, how am I going to get through this next minute? Like, you're busy thinking about that. But at the same time, I think it's just being cautious not to, I guess, get so fixated on that you are pushing away all those emotions and everything. And like, because again, like it's like anything, like the further you push it down, eventually it's going to come back up. Yeah. And I think with training and stuff, like as much as like, I think it's a great thing. And if you are going through hard things, like definitely I think being active and like putting yourself in those like hard training sessions and stuff like that can be such a positive influence to how you're feeling and helping you get through those times. But I think it's just being aware as well, not to completely like shut down and divert yourself away from like what's going on.
It's like so easier said than done though, hey?
Yes.
Especially when you're like right in the thick of it, and there might be like multiple things happening, and you know, it's this one really heavy thing, but then you've also got the stress of work, and you've got the stress of your family, and your friends want to catch up, and like you said, they want to be there for them, but they don't know what you're really going through. And there's all this thing, and it's like can be so overwhelming. Yeah. And you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to dive into this and spend an excess amount of time. Yeah. It's so easier said than done. Yeah. But I think taking the steps forward is probably the best way to do it. Yeah. Like my friend of mine, he said, being in that really hard place is kind of like being in a tunnel. Like picture like this big dark tunnel, and you can either like, you've got two options. Like you can pull up a chair and you can sit in that tunnel, or you can look down the tunnel, you can see the light, and you can make those really positive steps to do that. Yeah. Grieve the way you want to grieve. Yeah, 100%. Everyone grieves differently, but taking those positive steps, like you mentioned, like being active and talking to those people, I think is super important.
And and I think it is like, because like I said, for a little bit at the start, I probably did distract myself and sort of like push it away, and then eventually it came up, and then that's when I was just like, oh, we're going through it. All right, we're doing this.
How did it come up?
I think it was literally like a matter of I was talking to someone, and they might have just like mentioned something about their dad, and it just like triggered me. And I like hadn't really, I guess, acknowledged it. Or I was going to say, I'm pretty sure it was when someone was talking about like their wedding day and stuff like that. And I was just like, oh yeah, cool, blah, blah. And then they were talking about their dad. And then I had that moment of realization where I was like, fuck, my dad's not going to be here for that. And then that's when I was sort of like, oh wait, your dad's gone. Like, and I kind of had that moment where I was just like, oh shit, you haven't actually really sat with that and really like realized that it's like, this is what's happened. Because again, I was keeping myself busy, out of sight, out of mind. Like again, like a lot of the time we're so busy that like we forget to like talk to our parents and stuff because and they're still around and everything, which is fine. But then I, again, was just like talking to this person. Then when they brought that up, I was just like, I had that moment and it just sort of like clicked and I was like, oh, fuck. Yeah. Like, that's like, oh, he's going to miss this, that. And then it just, when I really was just like, oh, okay. And then that's when I did like, yeah, again, start reaching out to people to be like, wow, like I didn't really recognize that this is my reality. And because again, it's like sometimes we can distract ourselves with training and everything and forget what's going on, which is fine for a small moment. But then it's just like life keeps happening and everything. And you kind of do need to recognize that and realize that like you need to deal with this, because if you just keep trying to push it away, eventually it's coming back. Like it's happened and it is just a part of your new reality. But that was when, yeah, it just sort of like really hit me and I was just like, okay. And then kind of had to deal with it, I suppose.
Does it get any easier?
For everyone who might be going through it, I want to say yes, but at the same time, I think it gets easier in the sense that like, you know, it's just a natural part of life. And the older I get, I realize like that's inevitable. It's just that what happens and like what I'm going through, unfortunately, like all of us eventually will go through it and everything like that. And it is a sad reality of life and everything. But I think you learn to sort of, I guess, it gets easier in the sense that you start reflecting more and focusing on the positives of like, I'm so grateful that like I did get 24 years with my dad. Might not have been as long as I wanted, but I'm still so grateful for that. And if I think about that, it gives me comfort in the sense that it's like, okay, but I might not have got these years, but fuck, look at what I did get. And so I think it gets easier in the sense that like maybe normally I don't cry as much about it anymore. But I think learning about like being grateful and stuff like that, like learning about gratitude and stuff was a big thing that helped me get through it, because it's like, if you think about the things that you're grateful for, it's kind of hard to be sad or anything like that. It's a nice coping mechanism. But I think over time, like, again, like as you get older and stuff, you just sort of appreciate life a little bit more. I guess it gets a little bit easier, but like still miss him every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeremy Howe said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
You mentioned you listened to the podcast.
Yeah.
With him, whenever you listened to it.
Yeah.
And he said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
He said it was so hard. He lost his mum when he was 26 years old.
Yeah.
Very similar
Very
timing.
similar, yeah.
And he just, the same thing, was so obviously incredibly upset. But then he's like, oh, I actually got 26 of the best years with her.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that, I was like, that is such an insane, like, positive reframe on that.
Yeah.
Like, that is so impressive.
Yeah.
Because it would be so hard.
Yeah, because then that's the thing. Like as I've gotten a little bit older and maybe a little bit wiser, I've learned that like, again, like with your thoughts and stuff, it is like we have so much power when it comes to our thoughts and everything. And as much as if I think about the fact that my dad's gone, like I could hyperfixate and dwell on that for a whole day and then ruin my day. But then if I think about like, but then look at what it's taught me. It's taught me that like if I can get through that, I can get through anything.
Sure.
And again, like I do use that as not a motivator, but like when I'm in the thick of doing something hard, whether it's fitness, work related or whatever like that, I do think like, oh, if you can get through that, like you're kind of untouchable. Like it gives you that mental confidence that like, again, like, yeah, I got through a really hard thing, like one of the hardest things anyone will ever go through. Like I'm strong. Wow. And yeah, it's like, again, about the hardest things you go through, like usually they are like a learning perspective where it's like, what did I get from that? It's just like I got taught that like I have the work ethic like my dad, literally, and I'm just like so mentally strong. And as well, like a thing that he always used to say to me, like when I was like whinging about a boyfriend or something like that, he would sort of just be like, get on with it. Like, and that was a big thing. Like, it wasn't like don't recognize your emotions or
Sure.
anything like that. But he would just sort of be like, you've just got to get on with it. Like what's happening, respectfully, you can't really change it. So there's no point dwelling on it. You've just kind of got to get on with it. So then a lot of the time when I will be like maybe in the thick of it, I'll just think, what would he say? Be like, just get on with it. It's like, yep, cool, recognize it, but it's time to keep moving.
I actually really like that theme and that concept of like getting up. Like,
Yeah.
like it's interesting.
Respectfully, like get on with it.
Like, to be honest, like this is a very
Yeah.
like it's like resilience, mental
Yeah.
health, like focus. And
Yeah.
a big part of this podcast is around encouraging conversation.
Yeah.
I do 100% agree with that. I'm
Yeah.
so pro that. Is the whole reason this podcast
Yeah.
is built. But I do think it gets to a point where in certain situations, it is a matter about moving forward. And you
Yeah.
kind of loosely alluded to it before about getting fixated on thoughts.
Yeah.
And that thing of like ruminating on
Yeah.
thoughts, I think that is definitely something that I've got stuck on before,
Yeah.
whether it's like, it might be around the passing of a
Yeah.
family member, getting stuck on that, but
Yeah.
also around like when someone's done wrong by you,
Yeah.
or you be like, nah, like fuck this guy, like, and it changes your whole thing. And
Yeah.
a psych of mine, my actual psychologist,
Yeah.
is that you burn so much energy when
Yeah.
you're like using these emotions and when you're actually really fixated on these emotions.
Yeah.
So the ability to be able to move on from that is actually quite positive.
Yeah.
And so when you said around like the ability to not being able to fixate on something, it's a whole process, and I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
For me, like the grieving process,
Yeah.
crying
Yeah.
a lot, and
Yeah.
and talking about it is
Yeah.
part of it,
Yeah.
and then getting on to the point where you can move on. And there is probably the time where it'll come back up
Yeah.
through a conversation
Yeah.
or a trigger point, and not skipping over it, like really
Yeah.
analyzing and reflecting, why am I feeling this way?
Yeah.
But then the ability to be able to, okay, well, life doesn't stop, and he would actually want me to work hard
Yeah.
and get up at 5 a.m.
Literally, yeah.
And honestly, like I'm just so impressed by the way you've navigated your whole life around the fact that you've had these really hard things that have happened to you, but you're using that as motivation to
Yeah.
help people.
Yeah.
I got goosebumps. Like
Yeah.
it is honestly, it is the most beautiful
Yeah.
thing ever.
Yeah. And again, like I'm very much like navigating this journey still and everything like that. But again, as much as it was like the worst thing so far that I've ever had to go through and everything, it did teach me that, yeah, I'm pretty mentally tough, and I do use that a lot in, like when it comes to business and everything now. And I look back and I go like, no, I'm not grateful for losing my dad whatsoever. Like I wish he was here right now, but what can I gain from that, or what can I learn from it? And it's just that like, yeah, no, you're pretty tough. Like you can do pretty hard things. If you can get through that, look at everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of gets to the point where you're like, okay, well, it's kind of like what you said before. It's like, yeah, been through some pretty hard things,
Yeah.
but it's got nothing on
Yeah.
what I've been through.
Yeah.
Katie, thank you so much for today.
No, thank you for having me. You got to be the first one.
How you feeling?
I'm good. I was going to say, yeah, I didn't expect that question to bring that up, feeling up and everything. But I think, yeah, I'm grateful for it because, again, it makes me reflect and go, like, again, I'm pretty mentally strong. So I'm like, and I think I need to remember that going into this Ironman race.
You're going to be midway through the Ironman thinking,
Yeah.
this is fine.
Yeah, literally like this. You got this. You're fine.
Well, hey, thank you for today. Not
Thanks.
only thank you for the conversation, but like thanks for your friendship. I know
Yeah.
going on long runs with friends, you get
Yeah.
really close, and
Yeah.
you're definitely someone that I definitely feel like I can have a conversation with. I know we've had a lot of conversations over the last couple of years. I am just so grateful for our friendship and everything you're doing in the space, and keen to watch your journey with the Ironman.
Thank you. Yeah, and likewise, I was going to say, like, from pretty early on, I was just like, felt super comfortable talking to you, and then I learned, I'm like, oh, he's a podcaster.
What the fuck? That's
Yeah,
so good.
but you just have this like warm and open energy, and I think anyone who knows you can recognize that, like, you are the most caring, like loving, just like have so much time for everyone around you. And I think that's why people do feel so comfortable having these heavy open conversations with you, because you just have this like energy that makes you feel like calm and willing to sort of share. So I'm extremely grateful for you, and I'm very excited to tackle this year with you too.
That's very kind. Thanks,
Yeah,
Katie.
no worries.